Hey guys, John B here with Phone Arena, and this is our quick hands-on look at the Blackbery Key 2. With last year's release of the Key 1, it was an underrated phone and also reaffirmed that BlackBerry was back on track, once again becoming a relevant player in the space. Now though, we're finally getting a proper successor in the form of the Blackbery Key 2, which may seem to stick with the usual routine, but don't let its familiar looks fool you because it's rich in new features and hardware that should make it one coveted smartphone. Let's start off with its design. Now from afar, it's really tough to discern any noticeable changes to the design of the Key 2 since it doesn't really stray too far from the recipe they perfected already. But when we take a closer look at it, it becomes abundantly clear that you have a phone that's even more premium in its construction than previously before. It all starts with the solid and substantial feel of the phone, which features a Series 7 aluminum frame, you have 2.5D Gorilla Glass, and a new diamond pattern rear cover. One notable difference that really stands out here at the design is how they shaved off even more from its chassis, resulting in a sleeker looking smartphone at 8.5mm thin. Other changes to the design includes the repositioning of the power button. It now sits on the right side of the phone so it's easier to access, and they still kept the 3.5mm headphone jack. Obviously, it sets itself apart because it does feature a portrait-style keyboard, which is something that power users crave. The layout hasn't changed all that much, but they're able to increase the height of the keys by 20%, making it even more distinguishable to the fingers. It helps too that the buttons offer superior tactility, and they provide that satisfying response when typing away. They also added a new dedicated speed key, which allows users to enable shortcuts to the multitude of things, even when they're already within an app. In the specs department, we're essentially presented with the same display as before. So that's a 4.5-inch 1620 by 1080 IPS LCD display. It has a 3:2 aspect ratio as well. So while it has the same screen size and resolution, we really have no complaints about its characteristics, mainly because it exudes qualities that we find agreeable. For starters, the 2.5D Gorilla Glass 3 gives it a more elegant look, as you have the subtle curves around the edges that meet seamlessly with the aluminum frame. Colors appear natural in tone without appearing too dull or washed out, and distortion isn't too bad at wide viewing angles. The only questionable thing we have is the brightness output, and so far it seems sufficient enough during the overcast conditions we were checking it out, but we're eager to see how potent it can become under direct sunlight. If security and privacy are high on your list, then you won't be disappointed at all by the Blackbery Key 2. Simply, it's the most secure smartphone you'll find on the market. It's running Android 8.1 Oreo, and it's enhanced by the wealth of signature software features that BlackBerry has delivered. Like for example, you have DTAC that provides users with an overview of the phone's security, you have BlackBerry Hub as the one-stop area for all your messaging needs, and you also have the capacitive nature of the keyboard to scroll. Privacy on the phone has been enhanced as well because the locker not only allows you to hide folders and documents, but you can even make apps private as well. And if you're afraid about someone coming across your web surfing history, you can actually clear it out very quickly. A lot of people last year related the Key 1 as a mid-range offering because of the processor it was packing, and they might feel the same way here with the Key 2. It's powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 processor, and for some people, this might be a predicament, especially how top-of-the-line phones have leveraged the Snapdragon 845 so far. But don't let the Snapdragon 660 influence your decision, just because the phone feels responsive enough to handle pretty much any multitasking. Better yet, it's paired with 6GB of RAM and comes with either 64 or 128GB of internal storage, with expansion via its microSD card slot. It's a first for BlackBerry, but the Key 2 is rocking a pair of 12-megapixel cameras, which features a dual-tone LED flash, you have dual-face detection autofocus, and 4K HDR video recording. With the new dual-camera implementation here, it allows the Key 2 to capture portrait shots. And we've got to say, it does a pretty good job at doing that, because we did take a few shots and it does really well around the edges of our subject. Meanwhile, there's a single fixed 8-megapixel camera around the front, and unfortunately, there's no portrait mode offered with it. Another key strength of the Key 2 is its battery. It's packing a 3500 mAh battery capacity, and we're told it's going to reach upwards around 2 days from a single charge. So we're eager to see how it stacks up in real-life situations. Let's get the most pressing matter about the Blackbery Key 2 out of the way, which is none other than its price. When it begins to ship globally later this month, it'll be attached with a retail price of $649. Naturally, the question that remains here is whether or not the $649 cost will get consumers to budge, more so when it's an increase of $100 over its predecessor last year. It's in a tight spot because it sits in a range occupied by most flagships like the iPhone 8 and Samsung Galaxy S9, which start out respectively at $700 and $729. Yes, the $649 of the Key 2 is nonetheless a discount against them, but it certainly will make anyone rethink their decision. We've also seen how the OnePlus 6 has set the benchmark with its pricing of $530, which by comparison leverages the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chip. Then again, the Key 2 isn't one to battle in the specs arena. Rather, it sets out its own path to show consumers that it's a phone for utility. Right from the onset, it's setting itself on a path of success with its tweaked design, dual camera implementation, long-lasting battery life, and the most secure smartphone around. And yes, there's the matter of that physical keyboard too, which adds yet even more utility than your average smartphone. When you add up all of those factors, the Blackbery Key 2's $649 cost seems more reasonable than initially thought. And that is it for a quick hands-on look here with the Blackbery Key 2. If you guys want to learn more about it, you can check out our website, phonearena.com. This is John V, signing off.